the American West, a land of vast plains, rugged mountains, and untamed spirit. It was a place where dreams were chased and fortunes were won and lost. But it was also a breeding ground for lawlessness and violence. Out of this volatile mix emerged figures like Jesse James, men whose lives became entwined with the very fabric of American folklore. Jesse James, the name alone evokes images of daring robberies, narrow escapes, and a life lived on the edge of the law. He was a symbol of rebellion, a product of his time, and a man forever etched in the annals of American history. Jesse Woodson James was born in Missouri in 1847. The rolling hills and fertile lands of the Missouri countryside were his playground, a place where he could run free and dream big. But the tranquility of his early years was not to last. His family were slave-owning farmers, caught in the crossfire of a nation tearing itself apart. The James family, like many others in Missouri, found themselves at the heart of a bitter and bloody conflict. The institution of slavery was a divisive issue, and the James family's livelihood was deeply intertwined with it. The Civil War cast a long shadow over Jesse's youth. The once peaceful countryside was now a battleground, with soldiers marching through fields and forests, leaving destruction in their wake. The sounds of gunfire and cannon blasts became a grim soundtrack to his formative years. He witnessed firsthand the brutality and chaos of conflict. As a young boy, Jesse saw homes burned, families torn apart, and lives lost. These harrowing experiences left an indelible mark on him, shaping his perception of the world and the people in it. At the tender age of 16, he joined a Confederate guerrilla group. The war had taken its toll on him, and he was eager to fight for what he believed was a just cause. The guerrilla fighters, known for their ruthless tactics, became his new family. He fought alongside men who would later become his partners in crime. These men, hardened by war and driven by a sense of vengeance, taught Jesse the art of guerrilla warfare. They planned and executed daring raids, striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. The war left an indelible mark on young Jesse, instilling in him a deep distrust of authority and a willingness to resort to violence. The horrors he witnessed and the battles he fought hardened him, turning the once innocent farm boy into a battle-scarred teenager. These early experiences shaped his worldview and set the stage for his transformation from farm boy to outlaw. The skills he learned as a guerrilla fighter would later serve him well in his life of crime. He became adept at using weapons, planning heists, and evading capture. The war ended, but for Jesse, the fight was far from over. The South lay in ruins, and the scars of war were visible everywhere. Jesse returned home to find his world forever changed, with the old social order upended and a new uncertain future ahead. He returned home to a society struggling to rebuild, where old wounds festered and resentment towards the North ran deep. The Reconstruction era was a time of great tension and upheaval, and Jesse found himself at odds with the new reality. The bitterness and anger that simmered in the South fueled his desire for revenge and rebellion. The stage was set for Jesse James to become one of the most infamous outlaws in American history. The years following the Civil War were turbulent times. The nation was grappling with the aftermath of a brutal conflict that had torn it apart. The scars of war were visible everywhere, from the battlefields strewn with remnants of past clashes to the towns struggling to rebuild and find a sense of normalcy. The South lay in ruins, its economy shattered, its people embittered. Plantations that once thrived were now desolate, and towns that bustled with life were reduced to shadows of their former selves. The economic hardship was palpable, with many struggling to make ends meet in a world that had drastically changed. In this climate of uncertainty and discontent, Jesse James and his brother Frank, along with the younger brothers, formed a notorious gang. They were products of their time, shaped by the chaos and disillusionment that followed the war. Their decision to turn to a life of crime was fueled by a mix of personal grievances and a desire for retribution against those they saw as oppressors. They robbed banks, trains, and stagecoaches, targeting symbols of northern wealth and power. Each heist was meticulously planned, and their audacity knew no bounds. They struck fear into the hearts of the wealthy and powerful, who saw their fortunes and security threatened by these bold outlaws. Their exploits captured the imagination of a nation hungry for stories of adventure and defiance. In a time when many felt powerless, the tales of Jesse James and his gang offered a vicarious thrill. People eagerly followed their escapades, discussing each new robbery and narrow escape with a mix of awe and trepidation. Newspapers sensationalized their every move, turning them into folk heroes for some and villains for others. The media played a crucial role in shaping their public image, often blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Headlines screamed of their daring deeds, and stories of their exploits were embellished to captivate readers. Their daring heists and narrow escapes became the stuff of legend. Each successful robbery added to their mystique, and their ability to evade capture only heightened their notoriety. They were always one step ahead of the law, their cunning and resourcefulness making them formidable adversaries. They were seen by many as Robin Hood figures, taking from the rich and corrupt and redistributing the wealth among the poor and oppressed. This image was carefully cultivated, as it garnered them support and sympathy from those who felt marginalized and disenfranchised. To these people, Jesse James and his gang were not just outlaws, they were champions of justice in an unjust world. This image, however romanticized, fueled their notoriety and cemented their place in American folklore. The legend of Jesse James grew with each passing year, his story becoming a symbol of resistance and rebellion. Even as the reality of their actions was often brutal and violent, the myth of the noble outlaw persisted, capturing the imagination of generations to come. Their legacy is a complex tapestry of fact and fiction, heroism and villainy that continues to fascinate and intrigue to this day. The James Younger Gang's reign of terror reached its peak, and ultimately its downfall in Northfield, Minnesota. In 1876, they attempted to rob the First National Bank. The raid proved to be a fatal miscalculation. The townspeople, alerted to the danger, took up arms and fought back with unexpected ferocity. A fierce gun battle erupted in the streets, leaving several gang members dead or wounded. The James brothers managed to escape, but the Younger brothers were captured and imprisoned. The Northfield raid marked a turning point in the gang's fortunes. It shattered their aura of invincibility and brought the full force of the law down upon them. The manhunt for the James brothers intensified, turning them into the most wanted men in America. The years after Northfield were marked by paranoia and violence. Jesse and Frank, constantly on the run, recruited new members into their gang. They continued their life of crime, but the net was closing in. In 1882, Jesse James was betrayed by one of his own men, Robert Ford. Ford, hoping to collect a reward, shot Jesse in the back of the head in his own home in St. Joseph, Missouri. The death of Jesse James sent shockwaves across the nation. The man who had evaded capture for so long was dead at the hands of a traitor. His death, however, did little to diminish his legend. In death, as in life, Jesse James continued to captivate the public imagination. His demise did not mark the end of his story. Rather, it was the beginning of a legend that would grow and evolve over the years. The fascination with his life and death only intensified, as people from all walks of life found themselves drawn to the enigmatic figure of Jesse James. His story became even more embellished with each retelling. As the years went by, the line between fact and fiction blurred, and the tales of his exploits took on a life of their own. Families would gather around the hearth recounting the daring deeds of Jesse James, each version more thrilling than the last. The legend grew, fueled by the imaginations of those who longed for adventure and heroism in a rapidly changing world. Newspapers and dime novels romanticized his exploits, portraying him as a Robin Hood figure fighting for the common man against corrupt banks and railroads. These publications were widely read, and the stories they told painted Jesse James as a hero of the people, a man who stood up against the powerful and the greedy. The reality of his actions was often overlooked in favor of a more palatable narrative, one that resonated with the struggles and aspirations of the common folk. Songs were written about him, cementing his place in American folklore. These ballads and tunes were passed down through generations, each note and lyric adding to the mystique of Jesse James. The music captured the spirit of the times, reflecting the hopes and dreams of a nation in flux. Through these songs, Jesse James became more than just a man. He became a symbol of resistance and resilience. He became a symbol of the Wild West, a time of adventure, rebellion, and the pursuit of freedom, however elusive. The vast, untamed landscapes of the American frontier provided the perfect backdrop for the legend of Jesse James. His story was one of defiance and daring, a testament to the rugged individualism that defined the era. As settlers pushed westward, the tales of Jesse James served as a reminder of the dangers and opportunities that lay ahead. The legend of Jesse James transcended the man himself. It became a part of the cultural fabric, woven into the stories and traditions of the American people. Around campfires and in parlors, the name Jesse James was spoken with a mixture of awe and reverence. His legend was a mirror, reflecting the values and fears of the society that created it. He became a blank canvas onto which people projected their own hopes, fears, and frustrations. For some, he was a hero who stood against oppression. For others, a cautionary tale of lawlessness and rebellion. The wanted posters that once sought his capture became relics of a bygone era, symbols of a time when the line between right and wrong was not always clear. He was a product of his time, a symbol of the turbulent era that followed the Civil War. The conflict had left deep scars on the nation, and Jesse James emerged from this chaos as a figure who embodied the struggles and contradictions of the period. His actions were shaped by the violence and uncertainty of the Reconstruction era, a time when the country was grappling with its identity and future. But he was also a timeless figure, embodying the enduring allure of the outlaw, the rebel, the individual who dares to challenge the established order. The image of Jesse James riding through the frontier, evading capture and living by his own rules, resonated with the American spirit of independence and defiance. His story continues to captivate, a testament to the power of myth and the enduring appeal of the rebel who stands against the tide.